Well, hello and welcome back to my channel. Hello, Kim and Cal and Christine. So we've got a little bit to talk about today as usual, and it's going to centre around poo. How many days is this that we've been talking about the great poo debate? Well, it would seem that New South Wales Health has also come to the party and is blaming the ACT for COVID fragments in the water. That is right. It is starting to gain momentum. So the great poo debate is happening. And we want to look at the latest that's happening in Afghanistan. They've also named the soldiers or the Marines that lost their lives. And they were all very, very young. But I was horrified when I saw how young they were. It was like they were babies. Number too many. And then I want to pose a question to you, and it comes about from a comment that was left on one of my videos about poor people having expensive things. Why is there such a problem of it? Why is there a stigma that poor people can't have nice things? Should they be able to have nice things? And does it matter if they're purchased new or secondhand? Something to think about. But as I said, that has come about from a comment, and I will show you the comment. And it's not, and I've redacted it, so I don't want to upset the person that left it. But it's had me thinking today. Why is it that people on low incomes, as soon as they start talking about something expensive, get shamed and told you can't afford it? So just something to pose. So let's start at the great poo debate. This poo, who would have thought poo would be, who would have thought we'd be still talking about poo? So there's been some more fragments. There have been some more fragments of COVID in the sewage in Cooma and Merimbula. There's been more COVID fragments found in the poo. So fragments of COVID have been found in Cooma and Merimbula's sewage in southern New South Wales for a second time in less than a week. Well, I mean, that's a good point, Cal, because I'm talking about saving, and I was criticized because I was saving. Anyway, yeah, I'll show you the message, and we can, yeah. So it says New South Wales Health today announced today that the virus was again found in Cooma just days after COVID-19 was first detected in the town's sewage. Merimbula's treatment plant also confirmed a second detection on Saturday after health authorities noticed that viral fragments were identified. The treatment plants in Cooma and Merimbula serve a combined of 23,000 people. The Southern New South Wales Local District Health Executive Director of Medical Services, Liz Mullins, says she's concerned not enough people are coming forward to get tested. So they've got a pop-up testing set at their testing site. So today there was 1,218 locally acquired cases, new cases in New South Wales to last night. Dr. Mullins says the latest detection of viral fragments in sewage in Merimbula and Cooma may be connected to the ACT's outbreak. Hello, where do you think the ACT got it from? We know a number of people from Canberra came down here just as lockdown was happening, she said. There is a higher chance than normal that there may be someone with COVID in the community. The only way for us to know is if people get tested if they're feeling well. So because people come from Canberra and they've now found COVID, it has to come from Canberra. So it's Canberra poo. Can you believe these arguments, these discussions? Seriously? Oh, it's Canberra poo because the people from Canberra have come in. Sorry, ACT is the Australian Capital Territory. So we abbreviate everything. So Victoria is Vic, Queensland is QLD, New South Wales is NSW, Western Australia is WA, South Australia is SA, Northern Territory is NT, and Tasmania is Tas. So ACT is the Australian Capital Territory, or ACT for short. So it looks like it's Canberrans poo, they're saying. And the ACT is where Parliament House is. So Canberra's, that's what's got the Australia's Capital Territory. Mm-hmm. I don't know. When did the virus start in yeah. Oh, that's all right, Christine. It's good that you asked, because sometimes I forget that I'm talking to a different person. Spoke to my ex-mother who runs to while there is infected poo, there are no cases yet. Yes, there seems to be. They're saying that there's no cases yet. But, you know, has the poo identified themselves as being from Canberra? That's the question, though, isn't it? That is the $60 million question. So after 5 or 6 days, we're still having the poo battle. But we get alerts all the time about COVID being in a general area in the sewage. They must be running sewage detection, and I don't know how they discover it. Hello, Totally Braless. Hello, Totally Braless. Well, that's how I'm living life in lockdown at the moment. But I guess that's too much information. There is no way to tell with the boot. I just find it very interesting, though, that they're saying, well, lots of people come from Canberra and we've now detected the virus. But the ACT, or Canberra, got the virus from New South Wales. New South Wales, I think, has just about managed to infect every state of Australia at the moment. I mean, that's a pretty good record. That's a pretty sizable record to infect every, to have the virus, to infect the whole nation. Oh, oh dear, you got a positive test. I'm sorry about that. Hello, Mimo. Oh yes, and that's right. Every state and New Zealand. That's right. It's a pretty good achievement for New South Wales, to be perfectly honest, to infect every single state. So they're still talking about. They're still talking about opening up, though. I don't understand it. So anyway, they're stupid. Sorry to the people of New South Wales. Okay, so Wilcannia is the community that we talked about the other day, where Bruz offended. Well, they've got bigger problems. They've got a house. They've got a house. Wilcannia housing crisis hope as town battles COVID in overcrowded homes. There seems to be a crisis in Wilcannia. So not only have they got COVID in a very disadvantaged area, so Wilcannia residents have been given the strongest indication yet that progress will be made to ease chronic overcrowding due to lack of housing in the Indigenous community. The town has demanding answers from the New South Wales government for years about what is being done to improve living conditions of residents. So Andrew Methforth, an inspector based at Wilcannia Police Station, said one of the key issues in the town's recent COVID-19 outbreak was the number of people living together. Of course not. They're not going to take the blame. Plan to create. So one of the key issues in the increasing cases is that the number of people that are living together. There's talk of getting houses here, though the options to bring back houses that have been vacant for some time and use demountable buildings brought into the town and hooked up, he said. There's 6 to 8 houses that could come online within a short period of time. There's a separate subcommittee that have been set up and now discussed at quite a high level now. New South Wales Aboriginal Affairs Minister Don Harwin told the Wilcannia community that housing was being prioritised when he visited the town last year. So we've nearly hit 12 months and they've done nothing. So New South Wales Water, Property and Housing Minister Melinda Pavey announced funding for 20 new homes for Indigenous families across the area, including 8 in Broken Hill, 5 in Wilcannia, 5 in Walgett and 2 in Lightning Ridge. So because they're having to isolate, it's overcrowding. So data from the 2017 survey of Indigenous households in Western New South Wales by the NPRA, obtained by the ABC, shone a stark light on the housing crisis in the region. The survey reached half of Wilcannia households and found 54% of the properties were often always crowded, and 26% said their living conditions affected their house. Wilcannia local Aboriginal Land Council Chair Michael Kennedy said the town's COVID-19 outbreak had accentuated the desperate need for viable housing in the town, with state and federal authorities merely gesturing towards improvement. More than 8% of Wilcannia's population is now infected with COVID-19 and fewer than 20% are vaccinated. This is where the vaccinations should be going, Gladys, to your regional communities, to your vulnerable people. Mr. Kenny said he and his family were fully vaccinated and were the first positive cases recorded in Wilcannia. We experienced the symptoms at times. We had headaches, a bit crook in the belly, sore muscle and joint pains. Wilcannia representatives have lobbied for more targeted protection for the vulnerable Indigenous community for the last 18 months, but so they've been ignored. We tried to get a lot of things done in the community to help prevent this from happening, but every time we walked out of a meeting, it's like all our ideas and what we wanted just went out the door with us. Mr. Kennedy was among the leaders calling for a smaller scale lockdown for vulnerable communities and for better monitoring in the regions as towns based on a major highway linking Sydney and the western suburbs. So they were calling for a lockdown before they got locked down to try and contain it. The virus shouldn't have leaked out of Sydney and into our community. Wilcannia, Burke, Walgett, even as far as Dubbo, at the end of the day, they are a big part of why the virus has spread this far from Sydney. So, and now they're saying, so the Far West Local Health District has been ordering Wilcannia residents who have tested positive to isolate in their homes, where often more than 10 people are living under the same roof. If they're staying with their family and they're the only person who tested positive, we certainly look at moving them. We wouldn't contain them in the same household. It's a household where you've got households of 6 to 7 and 5 are already infected. Chances are the other 2 are not going to contract this very soon. I know that I think Victoria's doing that as well, that if the person that is positive can get moved into separate accommodations so that they don't infect the family, I believe. So the district has begun plans to establish a medi-hotel system should the outbreak dramatically worsen. We've secured sites at Warrawong and in Broken Hill and negotiated with at least 2 facilities where we can facilitate a medi-hotel system. The outbreak in the region started at a funeral held in Wilcannia more than 2 weeks ago, where more than 120 people gathered. Early on, we had potentially 200 to 500 close contacts since the funeral was held. We've only had 45 positive cases to date. In some ways, isn't a reasonable number. With Wilcannia's positive outbreak increasing by around 6 cases per day, noted that the goal of reaching 0 case numbers in the region is becoming unattainable. I think the ultimate solution really is vaccination, and then even that there will be more cases in the future. Cool. Oh, do I have a bit of an echo? That's interesting. Let's see if I can get rid of it. Has it gone? So not only has the virus, so now it's going into the communities where we didn't want it to go. And it's very sad. Oh, that's better? Yeah, I worked out what it was. So they're discovering that the people aren't checking in South Australia because they're trying to find out about these truck drivers that went through, and it's really hard. So anyway, hello Bruce, you're back. We've just finished talking about the poo. There's more infected poo in Maroomba again, and they're blaming the Canberra residents again. Poor Canberra. So New South Wales has broken all sorts of records today with COVID. And I know for a lot of you have bigger case numbers, but we've mentioned poo too much again. But they've actually broken lots of records today, and they're actually raving about it. So apparently they're nearly at they're halfway to their target before they're going to open up, apparently. So it's halfway to its target of having 70% adults fully vaccinated, the milestone in which the state will start to open up, despite having 1,218 new cases. It is a new daily record for case numbers in the state and the largest number ever recorded by an Australian jurisdiction in a 24-hour period. There were 6 deaths. So that brings it to 89. She said that in the past week, 834,000 people have received a vaccine. It is an outstanding record. It has broken all our records. So Gladys, or the Premier, is only focusing on the vaccination record, not the fact that they've had so many cases. So 65% of adults in New South Wales have now received one vaccination. 35% are now fully vaccinated. So they're approaching 1 million jabs a week. And for a population of 8 million people, that is outstanding. She says, thank you. It is making a difference. We're going to show the way in Australia as how to live with COVID. Right. No, they don't care about case numbers in New South Wales either anymore. It is apparently. So, and there's 31 COVID cases in the correctional centre, Parkley Correctional Centre, which has been locked down to avoid inmate movement. It was an inmate who was in the main section of the correctional centre, not the newly arrivals in custody. So it's a bit of a worry that somebody that had been in custody for a while has got tested positive and not new ones. There's 126 people in intensive care, 113 were not vaccinated, 12 had received 2 doses. Well, the problem is New South Wales are taking all the vaccines, and all the other states can't get their numbers. They can't get their vaccines done either. No, they don't. They don't. So, but this is interesting. So, of the 120 of those 126 intensive care, 130 were not vaccinated, and 12 had received 1 dose. 2 ICU patients had been fully vaccinated, but acute symptoms were unknown fully in vaccinated people. And again, 2 people in ICU were actually fully vaccinated. So I don't know why Gladys thinks getting to 70% is suddenly going to make the virus go away. Oh, do you? The vaccine is great. We know it is around 90% if you're fully vaccinated, protecting from severe disease, hospitalisation and death, but it is not perfect. It is not 100%. So the main area of concern is Western Sydney. Oh, sorry, I'm assuming Gladys thinks, yeah. The Premier said she was disappointed to hear of an arson attack on a COVID-19 testing centre. She's denied there were not enough resources in vulnerable Indigenous communities such as Wilcannia. I know that our teams give feedback on what needs to happen, and if there is more to do, of course, we'll do it. But until this point in time, all the briefings I'm receiving give me a good deal of confidence that support is being provided where needed. Well, that's not what we're hearing. So I think the Premier of New South Wales is living in a completely different world, to be honest with you. This is just my opinion, So, just my opinion. I think she's on an alternate universe. Because we've actually already been told today, our Premier said that we're going to have to probably be in for longer than Thursday. My opinion is correct. Oh, thank you. Glad to know my opinion is correct. Well, that is the fear, I think. Because when it gets out of control in the community, that's what it's done everywhere else. When Gladys opens up, it's going to explode and spread across the country. We're screwed. Well, as I said, at the moment, you know, just about every state and even New Zealand has been infected via New South Wales. So really? So sorry, did you say you had your second dose in July? So you've had your second dose? Wow. You're worried about going? Because yeah, this strain is just no holds bar. But yeah, so we've been told. I think it was announced today that we'll be locked down for a bit longer. I think it'll be at least another 4 weeks. As much as I hate to say it, I think we need, because that will take us to 8 weeks in lockdown, and I think that's about the time it needs. Oh no, Princess Jax, your nephew has got. Well, see, this is the thing that particularly the Prime Minister and New South Wales Premier seem to have in their mind. They're just hoping that it's all just going to go away because of the fact that 80% we can open up. Yeah, look, I think we did have that protest. I think that's going to delay us as well. Those stupid protesters. I don't have any time for them. So yeah. I said Christmas. That was way back. Well, Chris, I think is more. It seems to be a more realistic goal, to be honest. And I'm wondering whether there's something related to the weather, because we're going to go into our summer. Everybody else is going into their winter, and I can't help but wonder whether it is weather related. That's just because I'm wondering whether. Yeah, I'm wondering whether because our weather's going to warm up. Hello, Big Bad Ads. The whole narrative that it's a race between states when it comes is total, considering the feds are redistributing more. Yeah, well, that's right. They are redistributing to hotspots. New South Wales is getting most of them, and Victoria's, I think, used more AstraZeneca than any other state as well. So, and I was reading that they're nearly out of vaccines completely. So we're going to be at a standstill. So anyway. I have to say I've got used to having. I've been very happy not having to put a bra on as well. And not having to fully get dressed has been wonderful. I have to say I've really enjoyed that aspect of it. Okay. I know. All right. So after all of that, I just want to now turn our attention to Afghanistan, because they've released the names of the Marines that lost their lives. And I just wanted to just go through that and sort of pay tribute to them all. So, as I said, and I was just devastated that how young they were. So Steve Nikiu, who'd been glued to TV reports on Thursday, desperate for hints of his son, Lance Corporal Kareem, NQI, survived the deadly airport suicide in Afghanistan, where 3 Marines arrived at his door with the worst possible news. The 20-year-old Marine, who the previous day had sent home a video of himself giving candy to Afghan children, was among 13 US service members killed in the bombing. Others included an expected father from Wyoming, the son of a California police officer, and a medic from Ohio. He was born the same year it started and ended his life with the end of this war, NQI said in his home from Norco, California, referring to the 2001 start of the US military operations Afghanistan. On Saturday, the US Defense Department formally released the names of 13 members. 4 were aged 20, like NQI, as old as the war itself. That is devastating for me. 2 were women, Marine Corps Sergeant Nicole LG, 23, of Sacramento, California, and Marine Corps Sergeant Joanne Rosiari Pichardo, 25, of Lawrence, Massachusetts. G had posted photos of her deployment on social media just days ago with a picture of herself in uniform holding an infant with the caption, "I love my job." The Islamic State militants claimed responsibility for the suicide bombing carried out during massive evacuation of US and other foreign nationals, as well as some Afghan civilians following the Taliban takeover. On Friday, NQI was waiting for Marie Liaison to come to his house to help with arrangements to fly him and his wife to an Air Force base in Delaware, where his son's body will arrive in the coming days. He was angry. "I'm disappointed in the way the president has handled this, even more so the way the military has handled it. The commanders on the ground should have recognized this threat and addressed it." Among the troops that were killed were Riley McCollum of Wyoming, a Marine who was married with a baby due in 3 weeks. His sister Royce said in a Facebook post on Friday, "He wanted to be a Marine his whole life and carried around his rifle in his diapers and cowboy boots," his sister wrote, adding that he wanted to be a history teacher and a wrestling coach upon leaving the military. Along with wrestling, McCollum played football before graduating from Wyoming Jackson Hole High School in 2019, saying that "I'm grateful for Riley's service to our country does not begin to encapsulate the grief and sadness I feel today as a mother and as an American," State Superintendent of Public Instruction Jillian Barlow said in a statement. "My heart and prayers are with Riley's family, friends, and the entire Jackson community." Reggie Stone, whose son Eli enlisted around the same time as McCollum, described him as smart, strong, and courageous. And he drew comfort when the two hung together. "We always knew that Riley had his back, and my son, his," Stone told Reuters, adding that he got to know McCallum during his visits for dinner at their house. "He was a defender. He loved his country and wanted to make a difference." Navy medic Mac Servat's sister Marilyn described him as only a sibling could. "My beautiful, intelligent, beat to the sound of his own drum, annoying, charming baby brother was killed yesterday helping to save lives," she wrote on Instagram. Servat's death was confirmed on Twitter by US Senator Rob Portman of Ohio, the medic's home state. Pictures of Mac's Instagram page showing him laughing on the beach, rock climbing, skiing, and posing with 2 younger children. "Not just an older brother, I'm the cool older brother," he wrote in 2019. His last post was more foreboding. "It's kill or be killed. Definitely trying to be on the kill side," he wrote on June 10, accompanying a photo to show him alongside 2 other troops in uniform holding weapons. Hunter Lopez, 22, another Marine killed in the blast, was the son of a captain and a deputy in the Riverside County, California. Sheriff's office, according to a Facebook post by Sheriff Chad Bianco, Lopez had planned on following in his parents' footsteps and becoming a deputy when he returned home, the post said. "I am unbelievably sad and heartbroken for the Lopez family as they grieve over the loss of their American hero," Bianco wrote in a different post on his personal Facebook page. "The explosion took the life of Staff Sergeant Taylor Hoover from Utah, according to a Facebook post by his aunt, Brittany Jones Barnett. She and other relatives described him on social media as brave and kind. Today, the world lost the true light. Our hearts are broken. Shock, disbelief, horror, sadness, sorrow, anger, and grief," she wrote. The father of Lance Corporal Jared Smith, 20, called into a local radio station in Missouri on Friday to speak about his son's death and his passion for military service. He was not the type that just liked to sit around and get his 4 years done and walk away, Mark Smith told KMOX. He wanted to be in a situation where he actually made a difference. Smith said his son had been stationed in Jordan before being called to Afghanistan 2 weeks before the attack. The last public visible post on Jared Smith's Facebook page was July 29, photograph of him at an archaeological site in Petra in Jordan. A friend commented that he hoped Smith was staying safe, to which he said, "Always, my guy." So it's pretty, yeah, they were babies. Essentially, they were babies. So they've got some pictures here. So this is Nicole Gee. She was a maintenance technician with the 24th Marine Expeditionary Unit. This is also her. They're so young. I mean, that was the thing when I saw the pictures, they were so young. US Marine Corps Lance Corporal Kareem Nikhil poses for a photo. There he is. There says Sergeant Joanne Rosiero. This is Humberto Sanchez, 22. He was a Marine who was also, so he's one of the ones that died. He was 22. This was Taylor Hoover, 31. So he was I think he was the oldest. But yeah, Princess Jax, they are also young. This is this is Nicole Gee again. G, you know, she said she loves her job and she's holding a baby. Then they've got Max Serviak, 22. He was a US medic. He was one of the 13. This is Marine Riley McCollum. This is US Marine Hunter Lopez. This is this is him with his dad. So Hunter Lopez with his dad, who was a sheriff. Following the bombing at Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul, flowers are placed at the main gate to the US Marine base camp. So there's tributes. Oops, sorry, what was that? Oh. And there's the flag at half-mast where one of the Marines attended school, Kareem Nikioi. And yeah, so anyway, they were very young, so weren't they? Definitely. So this is the Guardian's running blog of what's going on. So Pope Francis has called on the world's Christians to pray and carry out fasting to ask God to bring about peace and coexistence in Afghanistan. So he did that in 7 minutes ago. But look at that. I hope they do the Fox tour. I hope they look after them. Look at the lines. Look at the people. So it's So there's apparently some issues with UK as well, amid bitter recriminations between government departments over who was to blame for leaving behind thousands of people with links to a UK. A former head of British Army questioned why ministers were not engaged earlier on the safety of Afghan allies. This was my question. General Lord Richard Dannett said on the particular issue of those who we knew were in danger, people who have worked for us, interpreters, former locally engaged civilians, this issue has been in the media. It is unfathomable that the UK government appeared to have been asleep on watch when it came to ensuring that the safety of Afghans who help soldiers and officials. That was my question too. Hello, Lee. You blame the government. So it looks like, I mean, the Australian government seems to be always asleep. So Al Jazeera's reporting from Kabul said the Taliban are wary of an attack. They believe that there's going to be another attack. The Taliban is particularly concerned about the south entrance of the airport, which is the main entrance protected by the armed group, as well as the northwestern corner of the airport. The Taliban said they were incredibly worried about the ISIL threat. They had pushed people back. They had put barbed wire across the road to try and stop anyone getting close and trying to disperse the crowd. So the Taliban are concerned that there's going to be another threat. So the British ambassador to Afghanistan, Sir Laurie Bristol, posted a video from RAF Braze Norton, which says we'll do everything we can to protect the gains of the last 10 years and to help the Afghan people achieve the peace. He restated his commitment to British nationals and Afghans who need our support. We'll be putting pressure on the Taliban to ensure safe passage for these people. They were on holidays, weren't they? I read that. Fears are growing for a group of Afghan refugees who fled the country last month, only to find themselves marooned on the border between Poland and Belarus in a cafe. I cannot pronounce that word. I'm sorry. The 32 refugees, women, men, and a child of 15 years, have been stuck in a small muddy patch of land between two countries for almost 3 weeks with no access to water, insufficient shelter, intermittent food supplies, according to a Polish NGO. They're not allowed to enter Poland, with border guards preventing them from entering, but they can't go back to Belarus, where they came from. So there's issues all around the world. The chairperson of Afghanistan's Independent Human Rights Commission has called on the world's government to hold the Taliban account on women's rights. Taliban will make every effort to deny women their fundamental human rights. The world should not look away or be delusional about this. We have to explore every opportunity and leverage to protect women's human rights and hold Afghanistan accountable for its international commitments. So this says, this is the hall of the Afghanistan Ministry of Higher Education. Today, Taliban held its first meeting. In this meeting, you cannot find one woman. Previously, 50% of this hall was made up of women. So the recap for the state of play: the US military has entered the final phase of evacuations from Kabul. Taliban officials say they're ready to take over the airport pending the final nod from the US forces. Just over 1,000 civilians at the airport remain to be flown out before troops withdraw. US President Joe Biden vowed to keep up airstrikes against the Islamic extremist groups. ISKP, whose suicide bombing at the Kabul airport killed 170 Afghans and 13 service members. That's right. Well, as I said, it's as if the past 20 years have just been in vain. And that's the thing that's annoying me, is that we just seem to be allowing this to happen. So it says, Todai journalist Khan has quoted the Taliban's caretaker higher education minister saying, girls and boys will no longer be able to study together in the universities and will continue to study in separate classes in accordance with Islamic law. So, Tolo News is Afghanistan's largest TV news channel. So yeah, they've already started the segregation. So 3 minutes ago, the top stories: the US remains on high alert for another possible terrorist attack, so they're expecting another one. And has warned citizens to leave the area immediately. The US Embassy in Kabul issued a warning of a specific credible threat on Saturday. This is my concern, Princess Jack. We're just walking away. Well, I thought we were supposed to train the Afghan military. Like, what have we done for the last, seriously, here's a question. What have we got to show for all of that time in Afghanistan? If it's going to go back to the way it was, what did we achieve? The Taliban and departing US forces aiming for a swift handover at Kabul airport. A Taliban official told, yeah, we are waiting for the final nod. The final plane carrying British troops has arrived at RAF base Brazen Norton. In a video uploaded to Twitter this morning, Boris Johnson praised more than 1,000 military personnel, diplomats and officials who took part in the operation. It says, oh, it hasn't been in vain. The private security companies and the gun companies. Oh, of course they have made billions. Of course. So the British have now left. The British ambassador to Kabul, Dimitri, have said that the Taliban could take over the Panjshir province within hours. So that's another area that they've been fighting over. So they're about to take that area. France and Britain will submit a resolution to an emergency United Nations meeting on Monday on Afghanistan, proposing a safe zone in Kabul to protect people trying to leave the country. So there you go. I tell you, as I said, my heart is breaking. And when you look at those little babies, and I call them babies, they were adults, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't refer to them as babies, but a 20-year-old to me is a baby. And when you look at those babies that were working in Afghanistan and they've lost their lives, it is heartbreaking. So here's another, we'll get onto this. Well, and that's the thing. A lot of people, where is everybody talking about this? Where are all the YouTube creators talking about this and getting this out there? We need to be talking about this. So here is more about the threat. So US officials have issued a security alert for its citizens to immediately leave Kabul's main airport, citing a specific credible threat hours after President Joe Biden warned another attack was likely. The embassy issued the security alert. Lee, so have I. I've shed many tears. The embassy issued the security alert for US citizens at the airport, including the South Airport Circle Gate, the new Ministry of the Interior, and the gate near the Panjshir petrol station on the northwest side of the airport. They were also advised to avoid traveling to the airport and avoid all airport gates. So they're expecting an attack within the next 24 to 36 hours. And Mr. Biden says, I directed them to take every possible measure to prioritize force protection. There are still 350 Americans in Afghanistan who have told officials they want to leave. Well, I mean, I don't try to bring up, I don't like to say I'm political, but I think sometimes we have to talk about these issues. We have to talk about these difficult issues. The security alert was issued a day after the US carried out a drone strike that killed 2 high-profile IS members, said to be people who planned the Kabul airport's suicide attack. The suicide was planned by Islamic State, ISIS-K, an affiliate of ISIS, who previously battled US forces in Syria and Iraq. The Pentagon declined to say if the people targeted in the US strike were directly involved in the bombing. Yeah, well, it doesn't do good for that. But how are we going to get these topics out there if we don't discuss them? So there are 1,000 citizens to be airlifted out of Kabul. Said the crowds at the airport gates had thinned out after the warning of another attack. The Taliban and departing US forces were seeking a swift handover. He said the militants who seized control of the capital on August 15 after a lightning advance against the Western-backed government had a team of technical experts and highly qualified engineers ready to take over the airport. Several of the United States international allies have packed up and flown out already. So the last British plane left on Saturday. They've evacuated more than 15,000 people in 2 weeks. Australian troops had already left Afghanistan. So this is the bit that's got me also very concerned. So Mr. Biden has promised further strikes against the Islamic State in Afghanistan following the drone attack. So he's saying they're still going to be attacking ISIS. So why are we leaving the area if we're going to attack them? And it looks like that they want to and the Taliban condemned the drone strike, which took place. The Americans should have informed us before conducting the airstrike. It was clear attack on Afghan territory. A Taliban spokesman said, adding that 2 women and a child were wounded in the attack. Well, see, I wondered whether you could have teamed up with the Taliban to get rid of ISIS. That's just me. Do a deal with like, what's the phrase? Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. If they've got an issue, with ISIS too, team up and get rid of ISIS. Anyway, I'm an out of the box thinker. So the Taliban aren't happy that the US did a strike without advising them. A State Department official said on Saturday there were still 350 Americans. Oh, hey, did anyone notice that Ralph wasn't on? Ralph interrupted church today and I had to turn him off. I forgot to turn Ralph off in church and I forgot him to turn him back on. He's going to be on in a minute. So Mr. Kirby said the US continued to control the Kabul airport and security there a day after the Taliban said they'd taken over parts of the facility. We're still in charge of the airport. We're still in charge of the security. And that was to a few days ago. Now, Afghans flee to Pakistan as Taliban takes over. So this is images of the Afghan-Pakistan border taken before and after the Taliban's lightning takeover show an increased activity as people become. So look at that. Look at all the cars. Look at that. And all down there. So in a Planet Labs image taken on August 2, the road leading to Friendship Gate in Spain, Spin Beldac, was empty. On August 24, crowds of people could be seen filling the streets that were empty a few days ago. Afghans desperate to leave the country had been rushing to get to the airport in Kabul, but those with no way to get to evacuation flights have been heading to land borders to seeking to cross into Pakistan or Iran. Look at that. All down here. Wow. He got one. I would say I believe that they're hoping. I was reading somewhere Australia's hoping that there'll be some commercial flights they can put people on. But again, that depends whether the Taliban's going to let them all go out. Now, I did put slow mode on. You might have noticed things have slowed down. I haven't been able to keep up with the chat. Oh, dear me. So let's get on to this one's going to create a bit of a, I don't know. This one, so quite often, sometimes comments left on my pages sometimes I take them as, you know, a joke, and I don't want to, I've redacted it, so the person who's left it, I don't really care. But this was in response to my Financial Friday, where I tried to work out a budget and I realized that I was going to be short. And I talked about the fact that I wanted to save $2,500 for a MacBook and a phone, and possibly, and then that would become a savings account where I also need a new lounge suite. There's new stuff I need to do. I need to get. So it says you should cancel your subscriptions and go without. There's plenty of free entertainment. If you're living that close to the edge, just have like 6 months to get yourself back on track. Buying a new iPhone is an insane idea on this income level. Go to Facebook Marketplace and buy a second-hand phone. You can get a MacBook starting at $200 and an iPhone starting at $100. That's $300 for both. You can almost buy 10 for the cost that you're wanting to spend. You need to get better at spending less money, except that you don't need new everything. There's nothing wrong with second-hand. And I said both my current phone and laptop are actually second-hand. I said the amount was higher. I use YouTube money to pay for my subscriptions. Half goes to rent, then half of what left I spend, and the other part I save. So I had been putting my YouTube money into my rent, and I decided that I don't really have to justify myself, but I decided that I should really spend on something for myself. Why not? Journal planning has been really good for me, particularly in lockdown. And so the money comes from my YouTube money. So that's how I wanted to address that. However, this is my point. Why is it that if somebody on a lower income talks about getting something new, they're looked down upon? And this is just, I know, this is society. Now my current MacBook is a 2012. It's fine. It's just very slow, and it's not coping very well with all the music stuff I need to do. Well, I don't totally braless, but I'm just wanting to have this discussion. I don't need to justify it. However, it was a comment, and I like to comment. You know, but I just wanted to. It was just ever since my marriage broke up, and I've been deemed as a single parent. Every time I bought something new, it's brought, you know, there's been judgment placed upon me, and it's not just me, it's every single parent, or it's every person. Every person that is on a low income gets looked down upon. I mean, if I was to say, oh look, I got let's just say I went and said, oh, I bought an iPhone 11. The first question everyone's going to say is, where did you get the money for that? Now, why can't it be congratulations? Why is it you always have to justify yourself? Well, I mean, it annoyed me, Princess Jax, which is why I'm still talking about it tonight. But it's just if I was, let's just say I was high income, no one would care. Nobody would care. If I had a full-time job, and what I've discovered is sometimes some people with a lot of income carry a lot of debt as well, because they've got to have the latest. So I was just saying I wanted to save $2,500. Part of that is Mac and a new phone. Both are secondhand, the ones I've got. But, you know, I've talked about a new computer, and I decided just to start saving for it. It took me 7 years, and I'm proud that I did my van is secondhand and good enough not to break down. It was just over 10K. Cool. Nice. Short article. So my lounge, and the other thing is most of my stuff is secondhand. So my lounge suite was my parents'. Something else was the coffee machine was my sister's. So when you are in that low income bracket, when you're in that low income bracket, people give you all this stuff. But there's also when you actually bit of an achievement when you've saved up and you're able to actually pay for it yourself. Yeah, that's right. Sure, look, well, how can you afford that? So I actually own my car. I paid off my car, and it's Oh, look, I understand, Graham. It was probably an innocent comment, and I was obviously just not in a good headspace when I read it. But I thought it was a very interesting question. That's all. It was just an innocent. I just wondered because I see it all the time with people that I know, and I just wondered what is it about it? Why, what is it about it that people on low income cannot seem to have or don't seem to be allowed to have new stuff? Why can't I have something new if I've saved up for it? And then why am I judged? Yeah. Well, that's going to be me, totally braless. I'm going to, I've got to save up for the lounge suite as well. So, and that will be my first new one. My kitchen table, I think, is the last thing that I bought that we got new. And I was, a lot of the stuff that I've got is old. My bed's 20 years old. So I usually keep them until they all fall apart. But yeah, so it was just, it's an innocent comment. Probably nothing was meant by it, but it got me thinking today, why is it? Because it happens. If I was to go and say, hey, I got a new fridge, the first question is, well, where did you get the money for the fridge? Like, why does it matter? And then the next question is, I thought you had no money. And it's like, what? You on low income, you get judged. When you save, you get judged. That's right. You just judged all the time for it, and that's why I want to have a discussion about it. I think we need to discuss it. Why is it such a big thing? You get judged because you're saving, then you get judged when you buy it. You're posh when you've got a dining table. Oh well, that's the kitchen table. Sorry, I shouldn't have said dining table, kitchen table. You are posh when you've got a dining table. I don't have a dining table. I don't have a dining room. Oh, I think it's called a dining room. I don't know. It's just next to the kitchen where the table is. Not that I ever use it. It holds good washing. If you're clever enough to save money, it's showing you have self. Yes, self-will. Yes, true. So my intention is to get probably a second-hand one, but I wanted to just put a goal there. Just be glad we don't live in. Well, I also am very glad about that, Bruce, the COVID poo. It's interesting because now I'm not actually getting paid, and I'm on the government's. I get $50 less now, but they pay weekly, so that's what I do too, Princess Jax. Well, you wouldn't buy a Mac. I know. See, I've just moved to a Mac, but the programs that I've needed to use for university and the stuff I'm going to need for music in the future is actually on a Mac. And the other thing is the $2,500 actually would set me up with a semi-professional setup, including. I don't chime in all, but I have a strong. Oh, go for it, Ash. Go for it. Cool. That's true. That's a good point. Took over 6 years to get it, and now I'm unemployed thanks to COVID-19. It's almost all I have. Well, I've only got a car, really, if I lost everything. Unis have been encouraging to have up for a year. Apple gave university. Yeah, but they don't pass them on. And some of the programs they get are free as well. They'll only run on Macs, so which is a bit of a pain. Well, part of the reason why I started to do my finances on a video, and let's just say they don't get a lot of views, which I don't care. It was about accountability for me. It was about accountability for me, and I know that it has helped some people as well. Look at their you can get a discount, you can. And it's about helping people try and sort out their own stuff, not to do with mine. So, yeah. And so that's the whole, I guess that was the whole process, was about being accountable for me, and people that I was talking to it was to do the whole journaling stuff. They're really trying to, get the knuckle down, and the whole point of committing myself to save, and that's what it is. And so that's what it is. That's why I sort of have done it. And and I've also seen areas I do have to cut back on. Hello, cheap glass. I also see the areas I do need to cut back on, and that's been really eye-opening, and, it's a process, and I think yeah. So, I mean, my ultimate goal is to have $5,000 saved, but that's going to take me. That may take me a long time. But I don't know what's around the corner, though. And also, it's also got my me back into loving cash again, and I find that when I use my card, I don't think about the purchase, but when I actually have to get the cash out of the envelope and go pay cash, it's like, oh, do I really need this? Yeah. Yeah, I think so. But as I said, it was just, and that's what I was discovering, Charlie Brownless, is that I was spending more than I should. And I tracked it for 3 months, but then circumstances changed, and now I'm on leave without pay, and I'm getting the government's money. That's okay. It's a pleasure, Ash. This is a really awesome group. And you should be proud of yourself. Really, that's really good. Well, that's right, and I keep track of it. So every time that I take the money out of the envelope, when I put it back in, I have to record how much has been spent. So I'm knowing where the money's going. And that does not necessarily, and that money's accounted for in the cash envelopes. So that's not money that, that's come out of my account as a whole. But anyway, it's a very interesting process, and it's really opened my eyes. But I've just, it's just something that I have, and I've heard, I've seen some of these conversations before. Well, I think so, yeah. Actually, paying cash for things is coming in. So anyway, so thank you for that really interesting conversation. And these are things that, I just went, okay. Yeah, look, I've got I've got $1 coins in here. I've got $2 coins in here. And I've got all my silvers in here. Oh, online shopping's a killer for me. Yes, Graham, I that's what I find. That's what I find, because you just hand over your card and you don't think about it. And then you realize, you check your bank account and you go, where did all my money go? So, as I said, what the journey that I'm on is, the journey that I'm on means that it's going to take time. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's not something I'm going to wake up tomorrow and find that, I'm covered in cash. It's going to be a long process, and I've now set some goals as to what I want to save in each category, and then to open up a bank account and have that category sitting there. That's the plan. And my YouTube money, so because it goes month to month, this last month is going to be August has been a reasonable month. So it's going to be, that's a variable income. So, but anyway, you need to stop buying Transformer toys. Yeah, that's true. I mean, Afterpay is one of my big killers. So I've set a goal that I'm only, I think I'm down to two Afterpay payments. And once these are settled, I'm having 2 months off. I just go, using cash as the same as paying this break car. Well, also very interesting. So what I've done is I've done it with my shopping, and I've taken out the cash that I was going to use my card for my shopping, and I get the balance out in cash, and I ask them for in specific denominations. That's what I do, Cal. That's how I've got around it. And I'm at the stage now where I have enough notes in there where I can swap out. So I'll just say, oh, can you give me the cash in 20s and 10s? And they do. So, or 5s, 20s, 10s and 5s, and they do. So that's how that happened. Yeah, so if I was going to spend 100 on groceries, I just, when I go, if I spend 100 on the groceries, I just get out the extra in the cash. So that's how I do it. I think at the end of the day, though, it's about finding a system that works. This system's working for me. You know, this system's working for me. So I've never had a credit card, says Laura. Yeah. So there's just an article. There's just something that's come up here. Queensland and WA have been put on notice by the federal government. Have a look at this. Do not stop our reopening plan. This is just a snippet. It's Channel 9, but, you know, have a look at this.
Queensland and WA have been put on notice by the federal government. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg issuing a stern warning to the WA and Queensland premiers to follow the national plan to reopen when 70 to 80% of the population are fully vaccinated. The Treasurer says the economy will suffer. He's also flagged a crazy scenario of Australians being able to fly to Canada and Singapore, but not interstate.
He's trying to now tell the states what to do, eh? Envelopes work. Yeah, look, there's people that are doing this 100 envelope challenge, but because of Australian money, we don't have dollar notes and stuff. It's no point me doing that. Yeah. But WA is still yet to get the New South Wales virus, so. Well, it reminds you, remember how the women used to have their housekeeping money, yeah, in a tin on top of it, you know, it's like that where they'd have their housekeeping. They'd always. Apparently, somebody's just posted here. Look at this. I'm not saying that this is correct, but someone's talking about. They're talking about the use of the grand narrative will have little stories built on it as we inch towards the election. The stories won't seem to have a link. Indeed, on the surface they won't, but the meta messaging, the subliminal messaging, the same. Scott will save you, the hero. And then someone says, Boris Johnson did the same thing in the UK with Freedom Day, positioned himself as the hero, the man to lead the United Kingdom towards the light. Keen observers will see a strong similarity in Scott Morrison's language, messaging and methods. You have a separate bank account that money goes into weekly, so I don't have a card. So if I want money from it, yes. Yeah, that's a good one too. Cool, yeah. So anyway, but it's all about picnics and weddings, apparently. In New South Wales, you'll be able to have picnics and weddings with other vaccinated people. Is it going to be like Married at First Sight, where you go to a wedding and you go, are you vaccinated? Cool, we can get married. I checked out one of Morrison's. It was a mishmash of others. Oh dear. It's not like you can meet anyone. Well, that's someone has said it. It reminds them of remember Heckle and Jekyll. So it says the only rogue premier is Gladys when in several months we hit 70 to 80 rates, states like WA will be foolish to open up to New South Wales if their COVID rates remain as they are. We don't want a return to restricted lives to keep Gladys and ScoMo happy. And that is the issue. The states are saying that they can't open up because New South Wales has got the virus running rampant. That's what the problem is. But apparently it's New South Wales and it's Western Australia and it's Western Australia and Queensland's fault if they don't open up. So anyway. So based on that note, I'm going to head off. I'm going to go to bed, and I got university in the morning. So thank you all for joining me. Thank you for having respectful conversations again. Thank you for paying tribute to the Marines that died in Afghanistan. Please keep Afghanistan in your thoughts and prayers, particularly if it seems like there's going to be another attack. I'm praying I don't wake up tomorrow and find out there's been another blast. There has to be some type. I don't know. Yeah, I can't put my head around how Afghanistan went so wrong. But there has to be. I believe there has to be some type of investigation. There has to be some accountability somewhere. But I don't think there will. Anyway, all right. Thank you, everyone. Good night, and I will catch you again later on.